Sent out the tweet.
Hello everyone, hopefully you can hear us and see us. We'll be starting in just a moment. Do let us know if audio levels are good. Hello Dan, say hello.
Hello, testing 1 2 3. Testing.
I've not touched anything since last week, so if something is broken, that's Windows. Tweets. I'm so bad at posting on Blue Sky and Threads. I need to remember to do them. I have OpenVibe, and that does simplify, but I just forget to use it.
Yep, same here. And Threads I barely post to just because I don't know why. just one more window to open up. It is a lot these days.
The problem is the conversion rate from Twitter to these other platforms is shockingly low, at least for me. I have like 80,000 followers on Twitter, and I think, let me see here.
Well, how many of those? I mean, out of the 80,000. Yeah, because like, I'm sure a lot of my followers were Windows Phone people from 2015. And then, so there's all those people who probably left and aren't paying attention. And of course, then there's all the bots, so. Okay, let's see. Where's the, I have to move that.
Someone's saying, is there echo? Please let us know if there's echo. There shouldn't be, and I don't know why there would be.
What is maybe I should do that?
Oh, you're right, there is. Okay, why is that? Let's figure this out. Why would that be a thing now this week? What if I do that? Say some words, Dad?
Talking. Let's see if there's any more echo.
Okay, mine's the same. Hang on. What if I do that? Say some words, Dad?
Talking. Let's see if there's any more echo.
That sounds better. So let's assume that fixed it. For some reason, the setting that I set last week was fine. This week, it's not fine. She just can't make this up. This is just the way the world works when it comes to Windows. Right, I'm ready to start.
Okay, let's see. I am.
I'm now recording.
Why is my? Sorry, my camera was doing something. Why is it shutting on and off? All right. 3, 2, 1, clap. Welcome to the Windows Central Podcast, episode 356 for February 13th, 2025. Hey everyone, Deanna Rubino here, joining Zac Bowden for another exciting episode of the Windows Central Podcast. This week we'll be talking about HoloLens for the last time, as it is now officially dead. We'll explain what that is and what that means in the larger context of technology. Briefly mention some laptop news and reviews and deals and all that kind of stuff, especially if you're in the United States right now and have a Best Buy near you. Copilot is bad at summaries of news articles and stuff, apparently, at least according to a new study that was done. So we're going to discuss about whether or not we agree with that and what we think about AI and where it is right now. We did talk about this in the podcast a week or two ago, but it was after the recording. It was in the Q&A spot. But we're just going to talk quickly about Microsoft Edge Mobile and how they finally moved the address bar down to the bottom, or rather gave the option to do that, which is even better. ARM is going to make its own chips finally. So this is ARM as in the company, not the architecture, which is ARM64. We'll talk about what that means, what they need to do, and is this going to be a threat to Qualcomm? And then briefly, I'll go over, this will be kind of my thing of the week, the Galaxy Watch Ultra and the Galaxy Ring. I've had it for 6 days now, and I'll talk about what I think about it, its strengths, weaknesses. I still got to put this into the review of the S25 Ultra, which I'm putting together at the moment, need photos and stuff, but we'll go through that. Zach, how are you doing on this fine Friday?
I am not too bad. How are you?
Not too bad. Actually, it's a Thursday. What am I calling it a Friday for?
Because I think it's because we used to do.
Because we used to do it.
Yeah, I do. Every Thursday does feel like a Friday now, I do have to admit. But no, it is Thursday, and we're sticking to Thursday.
Yes, it's like college, where Thursday is technically Friday, early Friday. Uh, anyways, yeah, doing fine here too. Nice week. We just launched all our Avowed coverage, which apparently is a video game that's coming out in early release right now, and then it comes out fully next Tuesday. But we have a ton of coverage of it and gave it a full review. If you guys are interested, I don't know much about this game outside that everybody's talking about it. And it's all like kind of hyped up. Have you heard anything about Avowed?
I have not. No, I've been busy actually reviewing a different game. I'm reviewing a game which I rarely ever do, but there's only a few game franchises out there that I'm truly invested in, and this is one of them. I think it comes out tomorrow. I mean, I could probably say what I'm reviewing, right? As long as I don't spoil anything about the game. I'm currently reviewing Tomb Raider 4 to 6 remastered, and so I'm actually specifically focused on the 6th game because that's the most interesting one out of those next 3 games that are to be remastered. So that review will be coming tomorrow or today if you're listening to the the post-broadcasted version of this podcast. But I can't say anything about what I think of the game yet. Just tune into the review when it comes out.
Fair enough. Yeah. So you reviewed the first 3 of the remasters. Mm-hmm. You're also like a huge fan of that series.
Yeah. So. Yeah, have been for all my life pretty much.
Interesting. Well, looking forward to that. Let's jump into the news with HoloLens being officially dead. So, HoloLens has been circling the drain for the last few years. It started to go downhill with, what's his name there? Now I'm forgetting.
Alex Kipman? Is that
Alex Kipman? Yes. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew it was. I was thinking Kidman for some reason. And I was like, no, wait. Yeah, Alex Kipman. So, of course, there was those allegations against him, sexual misconduct, and all sorts of things, and he left the company, and then things just started going downhill. But even with all the work he had done, regardless, that market itself wasn't thriving or doing well. While Microsoft was scoring some deals with some companies, and I mentioned how when I visited Intel at one of their fabs where they make the chips, I actually saw and how they the technicians on the ground in the lab itself use HoloLens to diagnose and repair computers. So they are being used, but apparently they weren't getting adopted enough. And then they got this, what was estimated to be a $22 billion a year contract with the U.S. military. That was over 10 years to provide a modified version of that for soldiers to make them look like something out of a video game. And then Microsoft was having problems with that, probably because, as we've noted over and over again, Microsoft really is not a hardware company. Yes, they have Surface, and they've done pretty well with it. Zach and I consider it to be some of the best PCs out there. But outside of that, they don't have great luck, and same with Xbox, of course. But they don't have great luck with, especially military applications. I worked with the U.S. government on stuff before. It is a long time ago, but to do the things that they were doing, some of them people probably need the security clearances, which is a whole thing. You got to get certain of your staff through, working through that, the equipment, and it's like that's not their thing. They've done like some consumer devices, but making it a industrial version for the military is a whole other project. Not to mention they had to bring down the costs and all that. So they had problems on it. But Zach, if you want to take it from there, maybe, and explain what's happened since, and then we can discuss about what we think about this category in general.
Yeah, so the IVAS project was essentially what was left once Microsoft dumped HoloLens, essentially. The timeline for HoloLens essentially being killed really stems back to 2021. I think it was mid-2021 when Microsoft outright scrapped whatever it had planned for, air quotes, HoloLens 3 at the time. They had been developing it for a couple of years at that point. I think HoloLens 2 came out in 2019, I want to say. And so, yeah, by mid-2021, development on HoloLens 3 had certainly begun and then been scrapped. And the reports at the time pitted all sorts of reasons as to why that was the case. It sounded like there was just lots of infighting and nobody really knew where they were taking the product. Didn't know if they should focus on consumer or enterprise or in military, because by this point they had won that contract from the Department of Defense. And so HoloLens 3 got scrapped. At the time, Alex Kipman refuted the claim that the HoloLens 3 had been scrapped, which to me suggests that he was still pushing for a new sort of a HoloLens 3 of some kind at some point. Perhaps not that iteration that they were building, but maybe they had a timeline for a different version down the line. Wasn't too long after that when Alex Kipman actually left Microsoft due to misconduct, I believe, right? I can't remember the full story, so I'm not going to go into too much there to avoid any sort of slander or whatever it may be. But so basically, since then, HoloLens has been sitting idle. Microsoft, up until now, has continuously said it remains committed to HoloLens and the hardware. Last year, they announced that HoloLens 2's production was being cancelled, well, was ending, essentially. They weren't going to build any more HoloLens 2 headsets, but they were going to keep supporting the device. Now, that's a bad sign. When they're ending production on a current gen product without a replacement being lined up, that's usually a very bad sign. And this week they have confirmed in a statement to The Verge that and I'll read it word for word here, Microsoft's CVP of Mixed Reality, Robin Seeler, said, "We are transitioning away from hardware development, but will continue to provide support for HoloLens 2 hardware and software through 2027, as announced in October. We remain committed to the IVAS program and will shift our focus to cloud and AI technologies, which will serve as the foundation for IVAS as a situational awareness platform." And the reason IVAS is mentioned there is because Microsoft announced this week that it was essentially trying to hand off, or it plans to hand off IVAS, the hardware, onto a third party. And the third party they found to do it is a company called Anduril Industries, which is an American defense technology company. Now, I personally don't know much about this company, but apparently they've been building AI products for the American military and other stuff. I mean,
the big thing about that company is it's founded by Palmer Luckey, who founded Oculus, which he then sold to Meta, Facebook at the time, for $2 billion. And they've been making that thing ever since. And then he was also on the Facebook board, but they pushed him out. And he went and formed, oddly enough, a military contracting company that specializes in AI, drones, and hardware. And now he's almost coming back full circle, right? It's like now he's getting Microsoft's basically the HoloLens technology, as far as I know, and they're going to build on and iterate it. And he's very excited about it because he's like, this has been my whole life building, to this moment. It's a really, I don't know. His background is fascinating. I mean, his parents, I believe, had access to capital, but it's still amazing how he founded this company, Oculus, when he was a teenager, and now he sold it for $2 billion, and now he's has one of the most important military companies and contractors in the world. It's just must be nice. I don't know. But anyway, sorry, continue.
Yeah, so Microsoft has found this company and they are going to hand off development and production of IVAS as well as software to Anduril Industries. And so that means this company will now develop the hardware and software for this device. Now, I don't know if that means if it's going to run Windows. I don't think it can, because obviously Windows...
No, they mentioned it runs their own software.
Okay, yeah, that makes more sense, because I think Windows holographic
all Microsoft. Yeah, all Microsoft will be doing is handling the back end Azure type stuff.
So part of this deal, Anduril will use Azure essentially as the sole sort of server network thing for Anduril products, including IVAS and whatever else Anduril makes. So that's what Microsoft gets out of it. They get Azure, another Azure customer, I guess, and they get to hand off this holographic device that they've been struggling to build for 10 years now. Obviously HoloLens 1 was announced in 2015. At the time, they didn't really know what the audience was for. If you remember, HoloLens 1 marketing was all over the place. Everything from gaming to commercial use cases were sort of advertised. And then with HoloLens 2, they sort of realized that it's mostly an enterprise product. But it's clear that the team at the time of HoloLens 2's announcement wanted to push this into a consumer space. Alex Kipman wanted to push it into a consumer space. And I think that's where heads were butted during the HoloLens 3 development. Higher ups probably wanted to take it down the enterprise and the military routes. Alex Kipman and his team wanted to try and push for consumer. Nothing came of it as a result. And so we are now left with this, because all of the best Windows mixed reality developers all left for Meta back in 2022, 2023, right? But that's sort of known at this point. Everybody sort of abandoned ship, so to speak. And so there was nobody really working on this. And I guess whoever they had working on IVAS, sorry, if you were working on IVAS, I'm not saying you were a poor developer. That's not what I'm saying at all. But, I'm sure morale was quite low considering all the stuff that happened in 2022 and 2023. And, we do know that a lot of people did abandon ship. And so Microsoft has been trying to wash its hands of this project ever since they were awarded the multi-billion-dollar contract to build this device. Because if you remember as well, IVAS has had struggle along the way, from version 1 to, I think currently it's called version 1.2. they've had to make changes and address issues with the hardware, because every time they sent out units for testing, military soldiers would come back with feedback such as, oh, it makes me feel sick, can't concentrate, my eyes hurt, all this other stuff. And so they've been trying to fix these problems with IVAS. I don't know if the latest version of IVAS addresses all of them. I don't think it does. But yeah, they were simply never able to solve all the problems. So handing off to a dedicated company that actually wants to invest in this product might help it. And so, you know, I think Microsoft wins here because it hasn't wanted IVAS ever since HoloLens 3 was scrapped, as far as I'm aware. It doesn't want IVAS, and it gets more Azure customers, which is kind of what it's focused on these days anyway. Dan, what are your thoughts on this? Is Microsoft throwing away like something important here? Like, you know, because it's mixed reality, the future. Apple seems to think so. Google seems to think so. Meanwhile, Microsoft is sitting here saying, I don't want anything to do with this anymore.
It's a complicated topic. It's clearly Microsoft invested a lot of money and time and resources into developing this. And it's still, considering even in 2015, you know, you and I both have used HoloLens 1 and 2. It's a crazy experience wearing the thing. Like, it's really remarkable technology. That said, you know, no one really seems to want to wear a computer on their head for very long periods of time. And I think Microsoft learned this early, that enterprise and business and niche applications, you know, surgeons, people doing construction, engineering, they could benefit from it as a tool that you put on when you need it for a specific task, versus this weird vision that Apple has with Vision Pro, where you just put it on and it's like, oh, this is now going to be not even your computer. This will just be your display for your computer, which you still need separately, right? And I remember seeing just a lot of people on social networks, Apple fans, who bought it, you know, for $3,500 and like trying to convince themselves and others that like, oh, this is great. I don't need to have displays anymore on my desk. I could just wear this. And it's just like a rechargeable device that weighs like a pound that you have to put on your head. Like, I don't know. Like, there's not a lot of issues with display technology today. Like, displays are getting really good. I don't know if people notice this. Like, I'm using a Dell 32-inch 6K display with a built-in web camera. That's one of the best I've ever used. It's a really good display. And then when you have gaming, you have like 4K OLED, 240 hertz now. And they finally fixed like the ghosting issues and the response times, right? So like displays are getting really awesome. There's even that 3D technology, which doesn't require glasses anymore. It has like sensors, like almost like Windows Hello, and it sees your face and adjusts the image, and you get 3D just by looking at your screen. Asus demonstrated this technology like 2 years ago, but that hasn't caught on, despite the fact I would say it's such low friction to use, right? For me, that's a way better solution, by the way, if you're looking for 3D stuff. It's not quite as immersive as what Apple's done. And don't get me wrong, Apple's hardware is impressive. It's like really amazing, just like HoloLens was. But they've notoriously had to pull back on sales and production of Vision Pro. There was a big story about how like every store had two of them, one on display and one for trying out and demoing, and they pulled the one off for display in all the stores because they weren't doing well. There's a separate story about how there were a ton of returns because a lot of influencers were buying them, doing a video, look what I got, and then returning it, you know, because what people were realizing is like, this isn't something that most people want to use day to day. Now, could the technology shrink down and become usable? Maybe, but surprisingly, Microsoft had trouble doing that, right? Even like HoloLens 2. HoloLens 2 was a huge step up in terms of comfort, wearability, and a lot of that stuff. But it was still like a helmet you had to put on. And Vision Pro is even bigger and heavier than that. So I think the route that a company like Meta is doing with the Ray-Ban glasses, we were just talking about another one this morning on our call, which I already forgot the name of, but Michael Fisher, aka Mr. Mobile, has been reviewing it. They look just like normal glasses. They're $599, and they have a built-in heads-up display in them that like again, like if you saw someone wearing these glasses, you would just think they're normal glasses. When you put them on though, and you look up, you would see a green like image of like your notifications and information and stuff like that you can access and manipulate. It was a really, for me, that's like way more practical. And Meta's glasses have done very well. Meanwhile, Snapchat has been struggling in this area too. Remember, let's not forget that. They've had like 3 or 4 versions now of those glasses. And the latest one aren't even consumers grade, right? They're literally for developers. So like this category is just, it's like VR. It sounds like it should work. It sounds like we should all be impressed. It sounds like we should all want it, and yet we just don't. So unless Microsoft has a plan to step back and just do standard glasses with some sort of smart technology built into them, I found the HoloLens project, unfortunately, I don't know. I don't know where it was going to go. I don't think necessarily people want, I mean, let's not forget, it was a couple of years ago. Everybody went in on the metaverse, right? Like, remember how prevalent that was? And everybody was like going hardcore into that. I mean, Jesus, Facebook renamed their company called Meta. And now it's like everybody shifted away from that to AI, right? And you still have Apple, who I think invested, billions or millions of at least of dollars into Vision Pro, while everybody else was already going to AI. Let's not forget, Google's been doing it for like a decade. Microsoft's been exploring it for a long time, right? And I think Apple was just like caught flat-footed because their AI, like Siri, I was on This Week in Twit with Leo Laporte this past Sunday. Great episode if you want to go watch it. But he was even talking about how like Siri has gotten worse over time. And Siri was like supposed to be like the premier version of an assistant, right? That is going to prove everybody else wrong. And Microsoft couldn't do it and Google can't do it. And now Siri is considered to be a joke. And their AI technology is just poor. And I keep hearing people like, well, that's just because they're waiting to get it right. And it's nonsense. They're clearly trying to catch up, which is why on the latest iOS 18, they didn't launch a full suite of AI products. They're trickling them out as they build them, right? And they've had to pull back even on some of that. So I don't know. I like the concept of this field, but it's just practically, I don't see it taking over. There's no, if you saw someone putting this on an airplane, it was a joke. And if you do want something like this, Xreal makes glasses for $399, which are way cooler, in my opinion. That works great with a handheld gaming system, works great with your laptop. You just plug it in, no software needed. You can be on an airplane. You can watch movies on a giant screen. You can black them out. I don't know. For me, like something like that is way cooler and more practical than all this stuff. But what about you?
Yeah, I have to wonder if Microsoft winning that IVAS contract and sort of shifting its entire focus onto that is why innovation in HoloLens sort of subsided and essentially eventually stopped completely. Because you're right, all these companies who are still investing in VR, AR are aiming to build something smaller. Headsets aren't going to cut it. The goal is glasses, trying to get all that technology compressed and compact down so that it can fit in a pair of normal reading glasses. Meta thinks it can get there. They've shown off prototypes, which are still quite thick compared to normal glasses, but they are in the form factor of normal glasses. And Meta does seem to believe that in the next few years, it will have a product that resembles glasses that can do almost everything that their current headsets can do. Apple has been rumored for many years now to be working on Apple glasses. The goal is glasses. A Vision Pro is a first step just to build the platform. Then over time, they will bring that down, make it smaller, lighter, cheaper, and then they'll bring it to glasses, which will probably cost $1 million. But the goals is there, right? Samsung's probably working on it. Google's just announced Android XR. It's clear that these big tech companies see a future in this, even if currently the market doesn't. And I think Microsoft focusing on IVAS, because technically it's the other way for IVAS. IVAS was about making it bigger and better and more powerful. If you look at IVAS as a headset, that version of HoloLens is significantly larger. It has way more sensors, because it can be larger because it's built into a sort of soldier's head, helmet, right? So they didn't have any space constraints. And so I even think IVAS has the compute module in like a belt that you wear versus being in the actual headset itself. So the headset is essentially just a visor with sensors, and then the actual compute module is attached to your backpack, or it's on your belt, or wherever it may be. And so, Microsoft wasn't working on making HoloLens smaller at this point. It's been working on making HoloLens bigger, which is the complete opposite direction you want to be going in if you're looking to build a consumer version of whatever device it is you're building. And so, Microsoft fell behind there for that reason. While everyone's been making all their components smaller, Microsoft hasn't. And so at this point, can it even catch up? Probably not. So it's just washed its hands and gone, well, we're not going to do a HoloLens 3. We'll try and figure out this IVAS thing. If we can't, we'll just find someone to dump it on. And they did exactly that. And so that's what I think happened with HoloLens. I do think it's a real shame because Meta truly believes that this is the next category. We've gone from...
They did.
They've said it recently. I've read that they seem to believe this wearable glasses will replace
all in on AI. Yeah, but they're going all in on AI.
But AI still needs hardware to be useful on.
Sure. But I think, like I said, their Ray-Ban glasses has actually been a pretty good commercial success for normal people. Yeah. Now, I'll say Oculus and VR will always have a place, but it's going to be, it always has been niche, and I still have not seen that change. I get every year I hear, oh, it's growing and there's more, but it's still, I don't know a single person who has any of those systems or who wants one of those systems. No one talks about it. And so I think they pull back on the metaverse stuff. I think they're going on into AI big time. They have their Llama models and they're doing quite well with that. But I think they're going to push the Ray-Ban angle from low-cost smart glasses that continue to get better over time versus starting off with the $3,500 headset that weighs a pound and then shaving off features to bring down the price, which is what Apple is going to be doing, right? We know they're going to announce a Vision at some point, which is just going to be a neutered Vision Pro. It's like, remember all that cool stuff in the Vision Pro? How about you get less of that, but it's still really expensive, right? It's going to probably at least $1,500. And it's just like, maybe, but the problem with this stuff is that you have to, even the X-Real glasses, it's something you have to go and put on and do. Whereas I think if you could just have straight up smart glasses, like when I was hanging out with Michael Fisher, Mr. Mobile, recently with Samsung, he had those glasses on. I just thought maybe he got glasses because he's getting older like me, because he just wore them all the time and you couldn't tell the difference. He just like regular. That will catch on. People will make use of that if they can add functionality to those that are useful. And I would still argue it's probably more useful for people in an urban environment than, where I am in the suburbs, right? But I think that way you make glasses $300 to $600 and you keep that price category. And as the technology improves and you can add things and you just develop it and build it out there, but it stays within that range. I don't think there's a world ever where some people are going to buy $3,000 headsets.
Yeah, fully agree. But yeah, I do think the goal is to bring these down in cost and in size. Like that has to be the goal. And so, yeah, I don't think Meta's giving up on wearables for as long as other companies are competing in that market. If Samsung and Google and Apple are building hardware there, Meta will continue as well. Because Zuckerberg wants to be at the forefront of the next thing. If that's wearable glasses, then so be it. And he wants to be there because he missed out on smartphones. And so,
I think even with the wearable glasses I'm talking about, I still see that as a small market. I don't know, I don't see it being even as big as smartwatches, where those are just as a technology that you can just slap on your wrist and it does so much stuff. Like, what is going to be the killer app for these smart glasses? Like the heads-up display, don't get me wrong, is cool. But it's another way for you to be nagged by your smartphone, right? It's another way for you to get notifications and see data and distracting you possibly from the thing you're supposed to be focusing on, right? And that's what smartwatches already kind of do a good job of, is you just look at your screen and you get your notification and you can act on it, touch it, dismiss it, do all sorts of stuff. With those glasses, you kind of can't do any of that stuff, right? There's no sensors on them yet at that price range for doing that kind of work. So it's like, what's the other killer thing? Maybe mapping. Okay, I guess. Again, that's a city thing. So that you're walking around and it shows you arrows of where to turn. Maybe that's cool, but how many people are like so lost in life that they need that all the time?
I think The cool thing for me, and again, this ties back into the AI thing quite nicely, is identifying things. If you're in the street, if you're looking at a product, or if you're looking at a drink, what is this drink?
Yeah.
And you can look at it, and it will give you a little like heads up display. It says, "Oh, this is a, I don't know, apple spritz or something."
I mean, technically we have that today, right?
Of course, with your smartphone.
Yeah, you can do it with your smartphone, right? Yeah. I use that pretty frequently, to be honest. I think it's a really cool feature to circle the search on Google. Samsung has their own kind of version. It's a little bit more robust, and Apple has their version that's either out or coming out, right? Again, potential, but now again, you just said it. You're repeating just a feature that's already on people's smartphones that they already have with them today. So I don't know if that's a killer feature. I have mentioned in the past the one killer feature I think that these things could deliver, but won't happen because it's a privacy thing, which is,
People
you walk around and you start talking to someone and, you see their face, and then little data starts popping up about their name, what they went to school, their age, or like where they live, and just things that help you in the conversation. Basically, your LinkedIn or Facebook profile information that's like that. I could see that being tremendously valuable when you go to meetings or events or concerts or even a bar or whatever. But it's been also shown in Black Mirror, right?
Yeah,
See people's social rating, So, but like, would we allow that to happen? Despite the fact I'm talking about just accessing public information. The companies already did that and done that, right? They got not in trouble, but controversy for collecting people's photos on the internet and just basically making a database for law enforcement. So, and it's just like, but it's such a weird thing. It's like, I'm going to put all these photos and selfies of me on the internet for the world to look at. And then law enforcement's like, all right, we're going to take all those and put it to a database. So in case something happens, we can identify you on CCTV. And people are like, whoa, that's wrong. And it's just like, I mean, yes, but no. Like, I don't know. Are you surprised?
Yeah.
I don't know. So
I do think the beauty of the smartphone design is that you can put it away. Whereas if you're wearing glasses, they're sort of, especially if you need glasses, they are constantly there looking at everything that you look at. And that, I think, will probably freak some people out. The convenience of a heads-up display, I do think is pretty cool, and I do like that. Because, some people, you're right, these days people are trying to be less connected, but some people don't have a choice. Some people have to be connected, whether it be through work or it's because they have long-distance family or whatever it may be. That some people have to be connected. And for those sort of people, especially that if you already need glasses, mixed reality glasses may be beneficial to you. But you're right, I do think it won't be a huge market. I don't think it will replace the smartphone. It will be an addition to the smartphone like the smartwatch has been. And it will only be for people who have the money for it or are technology sort of enthused enough to want to go out and do that. But yeah, it doesn't. I don't think anything replaces the smartphone. The smartphone as a form factor is too convenient. It's too obvious. And like I said, unless we can start implanting these things into our irises, like
it now seems like a joke, but there was that roadmap supposedly that Apple had. I think it was like around 2030. They wanted contacts that were like
that's right. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I laugh at that, but there are companies working on that technology. I think eventually smart contacts will be a thing.
I agree.
I still think it's pretty far off though. Yes. I mean, if you look at Vision Pro came out and it's like just an amazing amount of technology in there, but look at the size of that. Like, we're nowhere near shrinking this stuff down. We still need breakthroughs in battery, right? That's one big issue right now is powering these things. I'll also say, get back to the glasses. The other kind of issues with glasses versus a watch or a smartphone, like some people just don't like wearing glasses.
Yeah.
I personally, I have glasses. I hate wearing them. Like, it's just a thing. I look at myself in the mirror. I'm like, ugh, I just do not do well with glasses no matter what, right? And some people, it's just like a self-conscious thing. You don't want to wear glasses. Now, if they can get it down to a contact, sure, that's interesting. Or, right, they implant it in your skull, which, again, we laugh. But
I'm ready.
Yeah, 20 years, yeah, that could absolutely be a thing. And I mentioned this before, how I believe people, or at least some of us, want to be basically cyborgs. There's a lot of limitations with the human form and the body, right? Our brain is an amazing thing, but it's also like problematic. Like memory starts failing as you get older. Things you may want to remember, like from your childhood, fade over time. And I get it. Like, if you don't rehearse certain memories, you're going to forget stuff. But like, wouldn't it be cool if you could upgrade your brain to have more storage and those memories stay salient instead of fading? Like, there's so much work that can be done there, not to mention treating people with degenerative diseases and, all sorts of things like that. Same thing with vision. We're already at the point now where we can basically fix eyeballs for vision problems, which is hilarious, by the way, right? We're talking about fixing people's eyes, which is super common, so people can get rid of glasses only to get smart glasses again, right? Like, are those people going to really want to go through that whole
what
thing?
If,
but like, if they get,
sorry, guys, in the future, bionic eye, because you're right, eyesight does fail. But laser eye surgery does exist these days. You can technically fix it. However, if you were presented with two options for the same price, laser eye surgery or bionic eyes, where they're technology eyes, but you have perfect vision, plus you get all the built-in heads-up display and whatever it is, mixed reality stuff with it, what would you choose? Well, I know there's people going to be on both sides there for sure.
Oh yeah.
If they're the same price, what would you go for? I don't know what I'd choose.
I'd probably go for the bionic thing.
Yeah.
I mean, this is of course ruling out all the. Are there side effects?
Of course, yeah.
We're going to assume it's a proven technology. Yeah, it's a proven technology, right? Yeah, no, I would totally want that stuff. Like, I think that's all we do as humans is trying to improve. We were given like this life, and all we're trying to do is just improve it, right? Like, if you look at from caveman to now, it's like, let's have clothes, let's have mittens, let's have slippers, let's have socks, let's have cars that heat up, let's have houses, like, and we keep moving up. And now we're, a lot of science is focused on aging because they figured out that at the very least, aging is a process that can theoretically be stopped because we know a lot of the stuff, what it's happening. And now we can kind of reverse it, right? But then there's a lot of implications there too. But everything we're doing is just to improve the human experience. Ideally, people would want to live forever, or stay the same and not age, right? And I think that's all technology leading towards that. So anyway, we veered way off from HoloLens. Maybe Alex Kipman will come back with bionic eyeballs.
Yeah.
But I still think this category, I'm going to stick by my thing, is niche. Will forever. It's not the next thing. Smartwatches have even plateaued at this point, right? iPad, tablets have plateaued. Like, all technology is kind of flat at this point, which is why Apple was trying to do Vision Pro. They're like, that's our next smartwatch. And everybody's like, no, it's not.
Yeah, you know what? I have a controversial take, perhaps, or a hot take.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Apple is able to innovate anymore. And what I mean by that is I don't think they're able to be first to anything anymore because they're too big and too slow. Like with the Vision Pro, they were not first to VR. They were last to VR. Sure, maybe their headset was technologically the best, but it's also the most expensive and the heaviest. Whereas all these other tech companies have already figured out that people are willing to sacrifice, all the best tech for comfort and and affordability. Apple still hasn't figured that out. And, as you said that, Apple had envisioned contact lenses by 2030. That's hilarious to me, not because it's unfeasible, but it's because it's Apple. Apple is not going to be first to any new market like that, I don't think. I just don't think they're capable of doing it anymore because they don't have a leader who is hungry for that sort of thing. They have a leader, and I'm talking about Tim Cook here. He is interested in markets that will make money. And so he's actually quite conservative compared to Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs was happy to build any product he wanted and just put it out there and see what happens. Whereas Tim Cook has only really invested in product lines that he thinks will actually grow, like growth markets. And, Vision Pro is one, only because, he's seen that VR has potential there and that people have been building hardware in that market for a decade. But I don't think Apple's going to be first to content lenses. I don't think Apple's going to be first to, look at how long it's taken them to build a folding iPhone. And it's not because the idea of a folding phone is bad, because that's just outright wrong. The idea of a bigger screen in your pocket is obviously the next step for the smartphone there. Apple wasn't first to that, and they're certainly not going to be first to any sort of breakthrough in that form factor. It's going to be Samsung or Oppo or Xiaomi or Huawei. They're doing all the innovation. Apple's just catching up. And that's how Apple.
And the funny thing is, I think the rumor for the foldable iPhone is it's more flip than fold.
I've heard that too, but that makes no sense. They've got the iPad.
It does. It makes sense because they don't want to cannibalize the iPad sales.
They need to give it up.
I know, but that's how they view things, right? They don't. That was one of the reasons why they didn't even want to make the iPhone larger, was they were worried about that. But they had to kind of give in.
But this is Tim Cook's fault. this is Tim Cook. Like he's only driven by money and what markets can make them the most market money.
To be fair, the job of the CEO, there is pressure on him to create the next big category because that's what investors want, right? I already mentioned their main business product is the iPhone, right? Mm-hmm. But sales are basically flat because everyone has a smartphone. And as it turns out, people don't really see the need to upgrade every year. The advancements aren't that big, right? There's no killer feature on these phones anymore. And so they got to find a new category. Every company is kind of like that in that sense. But yeah, I don't know. You know what I was just thinking about the bionic eye stuff is like, yeah, we'd all get that, but then we'd have like pop-up ads.
Yeah, right. You got to pay premium subscription to ads at your
premium subscription.
Yeah, that'd
totally
be crazy.
Be a thing.
The thing, if bionic eyes are ever to happen, they need to have like a turn-off software mode so that it's just vision. Like if there was no way to turn off like notifications and stuff like that, that would be crazy, and that would drive you crazy. That would drive you insane. I think if you shut your eyes and your eyelids are closed, but you can still see ads, like what the hell? I want to die.
How about I also want night vision? That would be cool.
That would be great. Yeah, very good.
I mean, that's what the other thing. Well, I don't know how it would work with the brain because of the interpretation of it, but in theory, you could jack up the sensitivity of the eyes and like these bionic eyes and make them see possibly different spectrums.
I've just realized this is another Black Mirror episode, isn't it? The bionic eyes and recording things. That's definitely a Black Mirror episode in addition to the other one where everyone had social profiles.
Yeah. And the Minority Report had the eyeball security thing.
Black Mirror's done it all. If we're talking, if the future happens, Black Mirror predicted it.
Yes. Anyway, we spent a lot of time on that, and we were worried we were going to have enough material. Real quickly, do you want to talk about the Lenovo IdeaPad 5X?
Yeah, real quick. I sort of mentioned this last week in the context of, it's quite impressive how good mid-range laptops come. But I published my review of this week. It's the Lenovo IdeaPad 5X 2-in-1. The X is for Snapdragon X. It's the X Plus.
Oh, right.
Yeah, because this is technically available in all three chip flavors: Intel, AMD, and Snapdragon. The 5X is the Snapdragon one. The 5i is the Intel one. And I think the 5 on its own is the AMD one. Now, interestingly, the AMD and the Intel ones are cheaper than this. This is $750 versus $500 and $600 for the Intel and AMD ones, I think. But this one's better because it's got Snapdragon in it, which means it has better performance than both the Intel and AMD one. And it has all-day battery life as well, which is a big bonus over the Intel and AMD one as well. So my point, the sort of point of this review that I did for this laptop is that it's crazy how good mid-range laptops are getting. This is a $750 laptop that has a 14-inch OLED touchscreen, 360-degree hinge, a great keyboard and trackpad, albeit not haptic, but it's still a good trackpad for it being a physical click. It has a nice set of ports, 2 USB-C on one side, 2 USB-A on the other, plus a full-size HDMI out, all-day battery life thanks to that Snapdragon chip, and good performance thanks to the Snapdragon X Plus. Now, the X Plus, of course, isn't as good as the X Elite, but it's not a huge step down, and it's definitely beating Intel and AMD chips from a year or 2 years ago at this point, especially with the efficiency as well. This is a device that lasts all day. Now, a device usually, 3 or 4 years ago, a laptop at $750 would compromise on one of these core pillars, whether it be performance, battery life, display, or keyboard and trackpad. Mm-hmm. This compromises on none of them. This is a great laptop for all 4 of those core pillars, which I think are core pillars to me anyway. I know some people value different things differently, but for me, if a laptop has a good screen, good keyboard and trackpad, good performance and good battery life, it's a good laptop. I don't really care about the built-in speakers. I don't really care the quality of the webcam. If you do value that, then obviously your core pillars change. But for me, for $650, this is an incredible deal.
Although I should point out, the Qualcomm laptops tend to have better cameras anyway, just due to the technology of how the cell phone.
Right. I'm not saying the webcam on here is bad. It's not. It's perfectly fine. And the same goes for the speakers. They're Dolby Atmos tuned. They're not amazing. I think most people would prefer wearing headphones still. But Dolby Atmos tuned speakers is nice to have regardless, right? But my point is, it's thin and light. It's 14 inches. You can throw it into a bag. It's made out of aluminium. It's that typical Lenovo design, which I don't think this particular design is truly entirely inspired. I think it's quite dull looking, if I'm perfectly honest. But it's fine. It's not an offensive looking laptop. It looks fine. And for $650, this sort of thing you just couldn't get 4 or 5 years. You'd either be compromising on build quality, it might be fully plastic, or, like I said, you might be compromising on performance, or the battery life might be terrible, or the display would look bad, or whatever it may be. You just don't get that.
Yeah, I was going to say, for those who don't know, Zach is actually pretty hard to impress on laptops.
Yeah.
And it usually comes down to, especially the display. But the fact that OLED displays now are coming down in price so much and still have decent resolution on them, because you hate full HD.
I do, and this is a full HD screen, but OLED really does help. It does make the display.
Yeah.
I think also the fact that it's a glossy screen helps me as well, because matte screens plus full HD usually look a little bit worse than glossy.
They do look cheap.
Yeah.
I fully am on board with that. They do look cheaper. Where you have a nice glossy OLED, it does look very premium. Yeah, that's true.
And it looks really, the display looks great. And it's a 2-in-1, so it's 360-degree hinge. You can turn it into a tablet, and it takes pen input. Now, the pen doesn't come with the device, but that's, $750. You can't ask for everything. But you can use it to take notes and stuff. Like, it's basically a Surface Pro, which is great. Like, I'm just very impressed that laptops in this price range, $750 on sale, but you can also sometimes, I think I've seen this for $650 in places. That's just such a great deal that just did not exist a few years ago. You could not get this performance, this battery life, this screen in a package, brand new as a latest gen product from a company like Lenovo. It just didn't exist, but it does now. And yeah, I just think that's incredible. And I think it's a great time to buy laptops right now. If you're in the market for a new laptop, you can't really go wrong. All of the laptops are good, unless you're buying something with an Intel Atom processor or something. Don't do that.
Right.
Buy something current gen at the very least, and the laptop will serve you for many years to come. You'll be making a great purchase.
So that's the Lenovo IdeaPad 5X. And if you want something a little bit more premium, that's also not much more expensive, I would go with the Lenovo Yoga Slim 7X, which is another 14-inch laptop. I believe it's OLED display, Snapdragon X Elite. And let me get the full specs on this thing, because it's on sale right now for those in the United States. I believe it's at Best Buy. Yes. So it's normally $1,200, and it's now on sale for $799. It's a 14.5 3K OLED. So not only are you getting OLED, but you're getting a 3K OLED. Snapdragon X Elite processor, 16 gigs of RAM, of course, 512 gigs storage, and it's a full PC, AI PC and Copilot Plus PC, which is awesome. This is one of the few laptops that came out with the Qualcomm chips that I saw basically universal praise for. So if you don't believe me, so we give it a 5 out of 5. Zachary Body reviewed it, but that's a laptop, again, Lenovo Yoga Slim 7X Gen 9. Go look it up on YouTube. All I've seen is people kind of gush about it because it's a gorgeous looking laptop. It has super thin bezels on it. Really nice, but for $800, a 3K OLED, you're getting Snapdragon X Elite performance, 16 gigs of RAM. It's kind of one of the most perfect laptops. Again, if you just want to, this one's a standard clamshell. I should point out this isn't a 2-in-1. So, but that's at Best Buy right now. They're running a pretty big sale on it. We're not going to get any commission from it since you guys aren't virtually clicking our link, but I'm just throwing it out there because, again, I think, Zach's right. Like, if you're looking to buy a laptop right now, like, I can't think of a more perfect everyday laptop than that. You get outstanding battery. We report it as having 12 hours of on-screen time, like 12 hours real world usage, basically, which is incredible, right? So yeah, it's an awesome time to buy a laptop. Of course, it's just going to get better as we get further down the road in 2025, but there we go. Let's move on quickly to Copilot is bad at summaries. I don't have this article in front of me, unfortunately, but let's see if I can pull it up here. This was a study done by, I forgot, it was BBC, I believe. Yep, let me pull it up here. So they were looking at all sorts of things: Copilot, ChatGPT, Gemini, and Perplexity AI. And they were looking at it, how it summarized news stories. And it said the resulting answers contained significant inaccuracies, with just over half of the answers generated by the assistants having those errors. AI assistants introduced clear factual errors into around a fifth of answers they said had come from BBC material. And where AI assistants included quotations from BBC articles, more than 1 in 10 had either been altered or didn't exist in the article. Part of the problem appears to be that AI assistants do not discern between facts and opinion in news coverage, do not make a distinction between current and archived material, and tend to inject opinions into their answers. The results they deliver can be a confused cocktail of all of these, a world away from the verified facts and clarity that we know consumers crave and deserve. That's a really interesting point. I think I have seen that too on news summaries, and that ability to discern fact and opinion, which is often merged. Now on Windows Central, we tend to try to have a more analysis section below the main news, usually as a separate subsection, where the author can then go and give a better analysis and drop an opinion in there, whereas the stuff above it tends to be factual news, which I think is helpful for the reader. But if you're like a normal person reading that, yeah, you're going to be able to sort of tell the difference. But apparently AI sort of struggles with that. Now, I will say I do use the news summary stuff pretty often. Edge has it built in, especially on Edge Mobile. Samsung's mobile browser also has this built in, and you can even choose like a brief summary or more in-depth one. It still gets the main points across, but it goes to show you that you can't. I look at this stuff as guidelines and guardrails almost for when you're researching or looking into a topic. But if you're really interested in it, you probably need to go and read the article thoroughly. Of course, the problem is probably a lot of people won't do that, right? So this gets into that issue of people, coming up with a conclusion based on the topic, and then it's proven wrong, but then they later don't know that there's contradictory evidence and it spreads around. We always see this in social media. Story comes out, people get really mad. Oops, turns out we were wrong. A bunch of that has happened this week, by the way, with the US government and the Doge thing. And like people were putting out documents and like, oh my God, these guys got $80 million from the US aid and all this. And then I saw one was a reporter for The Intercept received $256 million. And it was a big thing because he was the one that discredited, quote unquote, David Grush, the UFO guy, like by releasing information about him having PTSD, which was pretty slimy to do, no doubt about it. So people saw that he got paid $256 million from USAID and were like, oh my God, he's corrupt, he took money. Well, it turns out, it was 256,000, sorry, not million. That 256,000 was just what he was getting paid from The Intercept. That was just his salary. They didn't give him any money. And so, but then that news had already spread around, And so people are really bad at this. So this idea that, I don't know how many people are relying on this stuff, but there was another report saying that like Gen Z uses like AI like 90% of the time. So I don't know. What do you kind of think about this stuff? And then what's your experience been?
I don't think I don't often summarize articles with AI. My memory, I can't remember the last time I did it at least. And I know I've seen the headlines where Apple was under fire for automatically doing this in notifications, right? I think system-wide on iOS now, the iPhone will attempt to sort of abbreviate multiple notifications, but what it often ends up doing is basically either taking away emotion from things or incorrectly just stating facts, especially from like news apps such as BBC News. I think the reason why the BBC did this report is because they were angry at Apple for summarizing a BBC News headline incorrectly. So they wanted to dive into it more and figure out what the hell this tech's doing. And they found that, this is apparently bad in a lot of scenarios. And I can see that. I can totally believe that AI is not doing a good job at this some of the time. But sometimes it is doing a good job, right? It doesn't always do it right, but it does do it right, enough of the time for, I think, a lot of people to rely on it regardless. I know personally, for me, when I do a Google search, and I'm sure this happens with Bing as well, but when I do a Google search, these days at the top, you get an AI overview. I always scroll past it. I always just click into a website. I'm not ready to trust it, and I think it's because of these initial teething issues. But I think that's a problem because I don't know if I'm ever going to be ready to trust it now. Like, at what point does my brain go, oh, the tech's solid enough now to just trust it? I don't know if that happens because I know how the tech works in regards to its generative AI. It's always in at least in its current iteration, whether it be from OpenAI or Gemini or whatever Apple's doing, it's inherently flawed. It can't know it's wrong, and so it can be wrong. That's the problem with it. And so until it's sentient and is able to understand accountability and take accountability for being wrong, I don't think I'm ever going to trust it.
So you want AGI? Want the full? I want a sentient AI. Yeah, I mean. I don't, these stories are fun to me. I think they're important to get out there just as a reality check for where we are. But that said, again, I think when I was talking to Leo Laporte on This Week in Tech about this kind of stuff, him and I are in agreement, which is, yeah, but this is all temporary problems. The rate at which AI is improving is ridiculous. So within 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 2 years, right? All this stuff is going to slowly go away. And we'll have probably new problems to contend with, right? But I feel like this is just this technology evolving and improving. We're expecting ChatGPT 5 at some point, right? Which is supposed to be a pretty big leap. I believe, the CEO there of OpenAI has been saying how like a ChatGPT is going to make 5 is going to make 4 look really stupid, and he's almost kind of embarrassed by where 4 is at this moment. So like we will have these kind of big jumps and stuff. So like I said, fun to point out. I think these are sort of just temporary issues. Related, there was another story that came out with the Wall Street Journal, and they were asking about some public figures, including some of the reporters, about their marital status. And like, instead of like this is kind of one issue also, that instead of the AI not knowing the answer, it goes and gives you an answer regardless if it's right or not. So only I think it was Perplexity, or maybe it was another one that basically would say like, I don't really know the answer to that. Where so it's kind of rare to see these AIs be like, oh, I don't really know, or there was no information I could find based on that. So instead, it was either creating spouses for these people, or it was just like giving completely wrong answers. So that's another problem too, right? But I don't know. It's very new technology. We're still evolving, so we'll see where it goes. I still really like Copilot. I will say with the S25 Ultra, if you get the Samsung's new S25 series phones, you get 6 months of Gemini, the premium version, for 6 months for free, which is pretty cool. So I've been trying that and using Gemini more. I have to admit, Gemini actually is, I would say, more robust right now than Copilot is. It does a little bit more stuff. It's even kind of weird. Gemini will actually kind of give you part of an answer, and then it'll be like thinking and like looking up information. And like it actually kind of gives you more of a status update, which is just because you're waiting, but at the same time, it makes it sound like it's actually doing something, like, which it probably is. But I will also say that Gemini has the benefit of being, you can set it as your default assistant on an Android phone, which is, I don't know if you can do an iOS maybe, but Copilot you can't. I still don't get what they're doing with the Copilot app on Android. There's no widget, there's no search bar. You can't make it your default agent. Like, what are they going to do with this, right? I don't know. So it's kind of strange, but we'll see where it goes. Let's move on quickly to another kind of fun story. So like I said, we did talk about this at the end of a podcast during the Q&A. So, but if you don't know, Edge on Android and iOS has finally got one feature that I've been wanting, well, since the first day Edge came out for mobile, which is the ability to have the address bar at the bottom of the phone. Anyone who had Windows Phone had this feature forever. It was part of Edge, Internet Explorer back in the day. But the reason is, of course, is your thumb is closer to the bottom of the phone, so you can just hit the address bar and type in your answer instead of holding the phone and probably reaching across to the top with your index finger, since these phones are so large now. And so that's a feature now in Edge. Now, it might not be available in yours. Of course, it's off by default since it is an option. As far as we know, if you go down into your settings and go to appearance and scroll down to the bottom, you should see something that says switch the address bar to the bottom. And it'll even demonstrate to you what it's going to kind of look like and all that. If you don't see it there, someone told me that they found it under settings general, which is interesting, which probably means that Microsoft is testing where to put this, right, in terms of usability, visibility to the end user. Now, if you don't see either option on your phone, this is what happened to me too as well, because Zach mentioned it. I looked at my iPhone and it had the option. I looked at my Android phone and it didn't have the option. But you can enable this if you don't see it by going into Edge : 2/ and flags, and that'll take you to all the hidden settings basically in Edge. I had to enable 2 of them, but you may just have to do one. At least do search for enable bottom omnibox. is 3 separate words. If you enable bottom omnibox, search for that in the flags, check it to enabled. You may also need edge to edge bottom chin. I'm not sure if that's still required or not, and that's all one word for some reason. But you may also want to check that to enabled. I do have an article up on Windows Central if you want to go check it. But you do that, and then you hit the restart, and you launch it, and you should have the feature. I was using Samsung's mobile browser for a while because it had this feature already built into it. And I was just like the Samsung mobile browser was way better than I thought it would be. It can do dark mode. It has plugins. It has the address bar you can move to the bottom. You can move stuff around. It's a very, very flexible browser that was also pretty fast. And there's even an extension you can put into Edge that will help sync up your bookmarks and stuff like that. So I thought that was kind of neat. But now I moved back to Edge, so everything syncs up together. But nice to see Edge starting to get some more updates. Can't say the same about Microsoft Launcher, unfortunately, which as far as I can tell, the only thing they've done recently is removed Copilot, which, again, I'm baffled as to what that's about.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So I've even, on the S25 Ultra, I'm actually using Samsung's Launcher for the first time, which is fine. I did find... I like there's a little things in Microsoft Launcher, you can hold any icon and change it directly through a menu, right? Where Samsung, you have to go through their Good Lock app, and it's a lot more. You have to redo it, the whole system time just to change one icon. It's really kind of a pain, but I don't know. Are you using Edge on mobile?
I do, yes, but it annoys me on the foldable because the big screen version of Edge is a bit buggy, especially maybe it's just on my phone, but sometimes when I open up into big screen mode while Edge is already open, the hit targets touching links and stuff on web pages shifts up, and the address bar sort of breaks a little bit, and it sits off screen slightly. And the only way to fix it is to kill the app and restart it. It's so annoying. And I don't know why.
I never noticed that on the Fold 6, but I haven't tried it with the bar at the bottom. I mean, maybe that's why it's not fully released yet. Yeah. So,
but yeah, otherwise, I do use Edge. I enjoy the syncing stuff between obviously a desktop and PC. The fact that your history and syncs and stuff is really quite nice, and you can also send tabs between devices as well, which I find quite handy and use quite often. But yeah, no, I am a daily Edge user on both PC and phone.
Yeah, I do like setting a link to myself on from the phone to the laptop, like a PC or whatever. Works really well. Cool. Anyways, you can go search for that Windows Central if you want the flags and the directions on how to do that, but just takes 2 seconds. And I guess while you're in flags, browse around, stay around. There's a lot of stuff in flags, and most of it I have no idea what it does. It sounds cool. You're like, I'll try that. And so I have a lot more enabled on mine, but you can if you search for Copilot, you'll actually see a lot of new Copilot features in there too, which is kind of cool. And so you can enable that stuff, but it's a way to try out things. If you really want to go extreme, get the Microsoft Edge Canary builds. Is Dev or Canary more experimental? Do they have Dev?
Canary is the most experimental. That's the most unstable. At least on PC, you can't even set it as your default. I don't believe. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But Dev is the one I think most people should.
I think you can set them as default, but I got to check. It's been a while since I run that. But if you go into flags for that, you're going to get stuff even earlier about what they're kind of working on and stuff. I remember Edge flags, especially on mobile, had 5 things at one time. It was like, oh, there's nothing to do here. But now there's a ton of stuff. If you look at things for the Omnibox, which is basically the address bar, you can look at things for privacy. You can look at stuff for cookies, security. There's streaming. There's stuff for browsing, like smooth scrolling, and the rubber band effect, like when you pull down the screen and it shoots back up to refresh it. It has it bounces a little bit. There's all sorts of cool little things you can do. On desktop, if you do the same, tons of features there, but you can kind of change the way your browser looks a little bit. I know in the mobile version, they even have the ability to force dark mode or give dark mode as an option. So it'll force a site that has a white background black, right? So a lot of people look for that. And you can even enable more plugins, I think. So go have fun with Edge flags. Nothing really breaks, right? You can always reset it, so it's fine. But anyway, moving on. ARM will make its own chips. So this was a story that Zach just found before we came on the podcast. Do you want to kind of just talk about it?
Yeah, the reason I wanted to bring it up is because I think it was last week's episode where we were talking about ARM and talking about how they sort of don't make anything. They sort of design stuff, but they don't make anything. This report from the Financial Times claims that ARM is actually going to make its own chip this year. So they say ARM plans to launch its own chip this year after securing Meta as one of its first customers in a radical change to the SoftBank-owned group's business model of licensing its blueprints to the likes of Apple and Nvidia. According to Financial Times, ARM will unveil this chip as early as this summer. The move from designing the basic building blocks of a chip to making its own complete processor could upend the balance of power in the $700 billion semiconductor industry, says Financial Times. So they say that this first chip will be a server chip by the sounds of things. And the idea is to sort of expand into building AI chips. Similar to what Microsoft does with its own in-house chips, it's Azure server, because Microsoft does build its own silicon now as well, but it's only for servers and AI processing. And this looks to be the same here, at least for now with ARM. ARM will build these chips, these processors, CPUs, but they will be primarily used for AI compute in servers. That does pave the way for something maybe more consumer-facing in the long term. Who knows if that's their end goal? But at this point, it's very interesting that ARM is finally getting in to making its own silicon or its own CPUs. So the rumor is they will announce the first one this summer, and like I said, it's a partnership with Meta. Although this report does say that this may also play into the secretive plans that Jony Ive has to build a new kind of AI-powered personal device in collaboration with OpenAI.
Oh, OpenAI, yeah.
Yeah, so perhaps, I don't know, I'm guessing maybe this ARM chip will be the offloaded AI compute, obviously the cloud-based AI stuff that this Jony Ive device may be powered from. I don't know. But it is super interesting that ARM is now interested in doing this, especially a week after we just sort of complained about ARM not actually building anything really and getting into trouble for Qualcomm for whatever it was they were complaining about there. I'm guessing maybe this is how they think they're going to fight the competition, is by competing actually. And I'm actually super interested to see where this goes.
Yeah, I think the could upend the industry. The word could is doing a lot of heavy lifting. There's some already, Nvidia is already in the space, Intel's in this space, AMD's in that space. So Microsoft's in there. Microsoft makes their own chip, Amazon makes their own chip, Google makes their own chip, right? So it's already kind of a crowded market, but possibly. And yeah, you're right. Maybe this will scale down to a consumer thing. It sounds like if they did do it, they would want to sort of be the default chip maker for AI and devices, which I could see as a market, right? Because right now you don't have a company just kind of doing that. We still don't even have a real good AI solution for desktop yet. That's a strict NPU that's available for market. So maybe they can do something in that space. Will they come to laptops as we know them? I don't know. We were talking about this before the call that, the beauty of a Qualcomm SoC is that you're getting the CPU, the GPU, the NPU, you're getting the camera ISP, you're getting the LTE 5G stuff. Like you're getting everything, the power to laptop, audio. It's all right there on that single chip. So manufacturers just need to drop it in the board, put in the IO stuff for connections, and it's all kind of done for them. Can ARM do all of that? Probably not. Like that's a lot, Like Qualcomm, at the very least, specializes in modems. That's what they're very good at, right? They're so good at it that Apple hates them for it, and Apple's been trying to make its own 5G modem to get away from, I believe it was to get away from Qualcomm, and they've struggled. They haven't been able to do it, so they had to renew their contract again with Qualcomm for like another year or two because of that stuff. So I don't know. I would bet on Nvidia. I think it's way more interesting in this space. We talked about them before, going to do an ARM64 architecture. Probably we'll definitely hear more about it this year. We may not see it, though, hit the market till 2026, but I think they're going to attack that market from the opposite end of Qualcomm. So larger laptops, GPU oriented, that kind of stuff. I see that as a contender. You have MediaTek somewhere in there doing whatever Samsung has potential. They do make their own silicon too. So I don't know. We'll see what Qualcomm does. I think they are definitely focusing on AI. What that means for consumers long term, I'm not really sure, but I guess we'll find out soon.
Wouldn't it be funny if ARM's first chip is an x86 design? That'd be
yeah, right. We have to change our name.
That'd be so funny.
Yeah.
I do find sorry, go on.
I was going to say there were rumors that Intel was going to do like an ARM chip at some point. Yeah. So yeah.
I wish that would happen. That would be so interesting. I do find it quite fascinating that for the longest time that the chip game has basically been Intel versus AMD, and then of course we've had Apple and technically Qualcomm in the phone space, but now they've come over to the PC space as well. So suddenly it's a four-man game here. And the rumor is
Nvidia is going to come.
Yeah, and now the rumor is Nvidia's coming. MediaTek wants to start building PC chips as well. Samsung, who knows? Exynos, why not get involved? Everyone should just start building PC chips. This market is about to heat up. This competition is going to be incredible. I'm super excited.
Yep, and we've already benefited from it. I know, like we're big fans of Qualcomm around here, but the gap between Qualcomm and Intel on certain things like battery performance isn't as big as it used to be, right? Like Intel chips they got pretty efficient, especially with the Series 2 of the Core Ultra series. And AMD, of course, has always kind of been there as well. So like all these chips are pretty solid. They need to get better, but and I think Qualcomm's they're going to have a big announcement later this year. So we'll see about that. All right, moving on quickly. I mentioned this last week. I got Samsung sent me the Galaxy Watch Ultra and the Galaxy Ring, which I'll hold up. I ordered a size 10, which fits my ring finger, because that's where I was wearing the Aura ring, which I've had for many years. It says Aura Gen 3. And I wear it on my left hand because it's just the most comfortable for me. This is like the one place where I can wear this ring where I don't really notice it's a ring. And it's on my left side. And for some reason, Samsung sent me the gold one.
Oh, you're married now.
Yeah, so now absolutely, like it was already kind of like, well, he has a black ring on that finger. Is he married? Like maybe. But now it's like, it totally looks like I'm married, which is just kind of funny. I mean, I have been in a long-term relationship. She doesn't mind. Although, maybe she should, because I remember reading data that married men get hit on more than guys without a ring on their finger, because women want the thing that they can't have. It's like a challenge. That said, never happened to me. So maybe I'm the outlier. But putting all that stuff aside, what do I think? Aura Ring, I've been a big fan of. I was grandfathered in. So that means I've had Gen 1, Gen 2, and because I had those when I bought Gen 3, I don't pay the subscription for Aura. So I get that's a sore point for people, but I don't pay one. So and in fact, if I get to Aura Ring Gen 4, same thing. It's for life, which is awesome. And that's why I like Aura. And I think Aura's done an incredible job for being such a small independent company, right? They really sort of set the bar here. Samsung's coming in here. I think they've done a really good job in terms of comfort and everything else. Like this is basically feels like an Aura Ring to me. It doesn't have the little cool indentation stuff that Aura has, but it feels about the same. The battery life's been really good, actually. What I do like is their case, which I don't have with me here, is amazing for this ring. It's a crystal case, so it's all see-through, and it has a lid on it, and it pops open, and you drop the ring into it, close it, the lid, and it charges the ring. And it's sort of like your iPod or your headphone, your earbuds, right? Where the case is the charger. So this is the charger. So you charge up the case, and you'll probably get like 3 or 4 at least full charges out of it. So I could charge that up, put the ring on it, throw it in my bag or whatever like that. Because here's the issue with the rings. It's like, so with Aura, if I'm going to go to Asia, it's like an 18-hour, 16 to 18 hours, right? And the full travel is more like 20, 22 hours sometimes. When you have a ring on, it's going to see you as napping or whatever. What you want to do is you want to put it in airplane mode. Once you put it into airplane mode, though, fine, you're going to save battery life, but you can't turn off airplane mode unless you have the charger with you. because you turned it off,
Right.
basically. So when you put it back on the charger, you can then do it. So, but if you forget your charger, I've done that before. I traveled and I didn't bring the charger, and I just had it in airplane mode the whole time because I couldn't do anything. But this is cooler because you can do that. You could throw it into it's all one unit. You don't need to bring a cable and all this kind of stuff. So I thought that design was brilliant. It's very comfortable. Accuracy seems to be pretty solid on it. It does a lot of the same stuff that Aura does, including temperature and things like that. The Galaxy Watch Ultra, I've been actually really surprised about. For those who probably have heard this podcast before, knows I'm a mechanical watch nerd. I have a lot of mechanical watches, and I really like wearing them. And so it's been a long time since I've gone to a smartwatch, and okay, I know, I get it. They're kind of copying Apple here with the Ultra and all that. Although this is a very unique design, that's very different. I think this is really good, actually. I've been really impressed by it. For one, it recharges very quickly. So I do need to charge it like every 2 days, but I just charge it while I'm in the shower, or if I'm sitting at my desk here, I'll just put it on the charger. But it charges very quickly. The display is huge. It's a 47-inch watch. And I forgot the resolution of the display, but it's a very high resolution OLED. And you have, of course, the crystal on top, sapphire, to protect it. It's very comfortable to wear, though. I love the lugless design, the ability to change the straps. It's very Apple Watch-ish. You push a little button at the bottom and just pops out. But you can literally change straps on this within like 15 seconds, which I do. I bought a lot of third-party straps, of which there are plenty. I'm coming from an Apple Watch Series 5, so
Oh, wow.
it's an old version. I hate it. That's one of the reasons I was excited to get this thing, because I've been trying to move away from the iPhone 13 mini. And when I go to the gym, I use the iPhone 13 mini and the Apple Watch and put my Android phone in the locker gym. I've been trying to get away from this separated system. So now I'm just using the S25 Ultra. I use the watch and the ring. By the way, the watch and the ring work together, which is really cool, right? This is the question I had with them. But yeah, the system detects that you have both of them, and it offsets certain features for one or the other where it finds more accuracy and all that, and it helps save you battery on them. But you get about 30% more battery life when you use both of them together. On top of the data itself is more accurate. It will combine the data and kind of do things with it, which I thought was really cool. So what's great is when I go to the gym, I do pop off my Aura ring, and I would pop off the Samsung ring because I don't want to use weights with a ring on. It damages the ring, it scrapes it up, and just feels bad, right? So I can now leave the ring off, use the watch, and go to the gym, get all my data, all that, which is great. And if I go to bed at night, I can take the watch off and just use the ring for really, some people really hate having a watch on. The other cool feature I really like is on some of the default Samsung watch faces, it has a night mode. So when it gets really dark, the face turns into this red and black mode. So it's really easy on your eyes. It also looks badass. It totally looks like a sci-fi military watch. You can even leave that on all the time, which I sometimes do because I think it looks so cool. The amount of watch faces for it is absurd. I probably spent at least $15 already buying watch faces because there's like so many you can do. But I'm surprised, and this has more to do with Wear OS, right? Because that's what it's using now. It's not using Samsung's proprietary system. Wear OS this is Wear OS 7, has gotten really good. I don't notice lag. It's super fast. It responds well to stuff. And it has an amazing amount of features and options. I can configure everything on this. The few things it doesn't have that bother me, I don't use this feature, but I totally get why people would want it, which is it doesn't have a smart alarm. So like Fitbit has this, where you set your alarm, say, for 8 a.m., and it will detect you're sleeping. And if you're in a certain sleep stage, it won't wake you up. It'll give you a 15-minute window. And if it sees you move or you're coming out of a sleep stage, then it sounds the alarm on your watch. We used to do this when I was working as a sleep tech in New York City. If someone was in a REM sleep or deep stage sleep, we wouldn't wake them because they're going to be all groggy and out of it and just feel terrible. But if they moved, we would run in there and wake them up. Like, all right, you gotta get up, get out of here, because we want to get them out, So this doesn't have that for some reason, although a lot of people are requesting that feature, and I don't know why they don't have it. I forgot there was one other thing I was kind of disappointed. Oh yeah, it's not good at detecting naps. In fact, it doesn't.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, although Samsung says like it should or something like that, but it's never detected a nap for me, which is kind of annoying. Aura does pick up naps. It's not always 100%, but I would say it's about 60 to 75% accurate. Most of the time, I'll pick up a nap when I take one. So that's a little disappointing. But the auto detection of workouts has been great. Music control has been awesome.
What's the battery life like?
Yeah, it's like I have like basically everything on. I'm getting like 2 days out of it.
Yeah.
It's like a day. It's like one day, 14 hours or something like that. So it's not incredible. If you do turn off more of the stuff, like the always on display and everything like that, you can definitely get like multiple days out of it. It does have a large battery. But yeah, it's not bad. But for me, again, that's mitigated by the fact that it recharges pretty quickly. I'm surprised. Like I'll be down to like 68%. I'll slap it on the charger, and then like within like 15, 20 minutes, I'm like in the 90s already. Like for me, that's good enough, right?
I used to get really frustrated because I used to obviously use Fitbits. Fitbits would last 5-7 days, sometimes even 2 weeks. And then I moved to full smartwatches with Wear OS and stuff. I currently daily drive the Pixel Watch 3. And that's just it's about probably 2 days as well. And I used to really frustrate me. But then I just, I realized, every time I jump in the shower every day, drop on the charger and it's
top it off.
Topped up. Yeah. And I've never hit low battery on it because I'm always just quickly shoving it on the charger as I jump in the shower. But I did also try the OnePlus Watch 2 last year. That gets about 5-6 days as a smartwatch, which is incredible for a smartwatch.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed using that OnePlus Watch 2. The only issue I had with it, that really drove me up the wall, was that it didn't sync Do Not Disturb states. So if you were to fall asleep, because that's what the Pixel Watch 3 does. If when you fall asleep, it turns on Do Not Disturb and it syncs with your phone. However, the OnePlus Watch 2 wouldn't do that. It would turn on Do Not Disturb on the watch, but not the phone. So any notification comes in, it blasts me, and I'm like, oh, what? Why? And it just, I had to stop using it because it wouldn't sync Do Not Disturb, and there was no way to make it do that. And I thought, what a stupid thing to not have included. It runs Wear OS, but Pixel Watch has it. Wear OS, OnePlus Watch 2, Wear OS doesn't have it. Crazy.
Yeah, so like that's the issue kind of with this technology. Again, that's why I was impressed with Samsung's, like the amount of features and things I can turn on and off and customize is almost overwhelming. It's taken me literally days to go through everything. But like, so Samsung has that too. In fact, that they have pre-set up, I forgot what they call them. What is it called? Modes. Yeah. So like they have, by default, they have like a sleep mode. They have a movie theater mode, like movie mode. They have driving mode. And they're not on by default, but you click them and it already has a preset rules in there, which you can then modify and turn it on. So what I love with the Samsung one is like, I was talking about, so I wear like a lot of different third-party watch faces during the day, and I like to switch between them. But these don't have that red night mode that the Samsung faces do. So when I have the sleep mode, goes on at midnight every night, and it does do the phone and the watch. You can turn that off though. You can like separate them if you want to, but you can sync them. But you can also choose the watch face. So when mine goes to sleep mode, it picks my sleep mode watch face, which is the red one, and chooses that. I also set it up recently for driving. So when it pairs up to the Bluetooth in my car, it changes the watch face to a very easy one that's easy for me to read. It disables notifications unless it's from people who I choose as important. And like it simplifies everything. And I get out of the car, it just switches back. Same with movie theaters. I can give it the address of movie theaters. And when I get to the movie theater, it's going to switch to movie theater mode, whatever I choose to have. That stuff is like, does take time to build out. But I thought Samsung has done a really good job with it. It's an incredible screen. And I like the build. I like the look of it. I did wish, Fisher complained about this, Mr. Mobile, that it doesn't have a rotating bezel. Which, again, I do admit on the Apple Watch, it has the crown, basically the digital crown. It is pretty cool. It's great. It's really good for volume. That's really all it's about good for as a volume knob. This does have something similar. It has a virtual bezel. So if you like half touch it with your finger and the screen, it does click and do stuff. Ton of haptic options. There's like 20 haptic choices you can have, and then different notifications. Like there's a lot to it. The accuracy seems to be all right. I think it's a little bit generous. Today it gave me a 98% on my sleep. I've never had 98% on Aura. Like, I think the highest I've ever gotten on Aura was maybe a 91. So,
Oh, that's a good point. How does it handle wearing both the ring and the watch, like tracking
yeah, like I said,
steps
like
and sleep?
I did ask them about that, and I have some like information I'll try to maybe put into the sub review I do with these things. But yeah, it does. It offloads certain data to one or the other, which when it sees like that's more consistent and all this kind of stuff. So it might turn off a feature on your ring if it's on the watch and vice versa. It could also combine data to average, I think is how it will do it. But yeah, they said that it does use both data points. And when they're combined together, you can save about 30% on battery life.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah. And so, like I said, as I mentioned, it's like what's cool is like you can take the watch off at when you go to bed at night, wear the ring just for sleeping, or when I go to the gym, I can just take the ring off and use the watch for the gym, right? So it does have that flexibility. So I don't think, in terms of overall like health accuracy, I don't think they're quite up there with Apple or Aura or even Fitbit. That's by no means saying it's bad. I think it's ballparkish. I think it's like within those, right? I think that stuff definitely is going to improve over time as they improve their algorithms and stuff like that. It does do some incredible things. It does do EKG, which is nice, and they even do BMI, body mass index, where you hold your two fingers on it, and it basically gives you your fat percentage. I think it overestimates, at least compared to my scale, but who really knows? It also does this thing called AGES. It's capital AGE, and it's supposed to be a measure of like certain properties in your skin that can tell it like how healthy you are and like if you're getting enough antioxidants and stuff like that, which is really wild. Again, I don't know how accurate this is, but it's the biggest thing actually for me is, getting back to the Apple Watch Series 5, and I admit that's an unfair comparison completely, but my Series 5 was terrible at being on my wrist and giving me a consistent heart rate. I would always look down on it. It would just be 2 double dashes or, it just wasn't detecting my heart rate, despite how many times I cleaned the sensor, tighten the band, loosen the band, move it up on my arm. Never had an issue with this. Now, if I got the brand new Apple Watch, I probably wouldn't have that problem as bad either. But, so I'm being a little unfair there. But it's been a nice upgrade. And I really like it. I'll probably switch between this and my mechanicals here and there. But yeah, the weather is cool on it. I like being able to look down and configure the watch faces so it can give me my real feel weather and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, that's it for that stuff. If you guys have any other more questions, feel free to ask my experience. But yeah, I give them a thumbs up. They're expensive. You can find them on sale though. Actually, Zach, if you go through the perks at work thing that we have, I don't know if it's still available. They had like the Galaxy Watch Ultra. It was like, I don't know, it was like 300 off or something like that.
Oh, wow.
It was like, yeah, it was like super cheap. I was just like, wow, if I didn't know that, the ring I do like. Will I switch away from Aura completely? I don't know. Maybe. I've been occasionally wearing both at night to kind of compare. I would probably have to get a different color version. I don't know if I really want to be gold, but maybe. We'll see. But yeah, so that's my thoughts on that stuff. Neat technology. I think Samsung is doing. Oh, and also the other reason I got this stuff basically was because it ties into the AI stuff on the S25 Ultra. So that has their now brief, which is kind of cool. So when you click it in the morning, I open that up. It gives me my weather forecast, right? I don't get a lot of value just seeing a sun and a temperature, right? I want to know what the forecast is. So this will give you the forecast plus the temperatures and all that stuff. It gives you your calendar appointments. It also will summarize your sleep score and your readiness score. So you get that. You get some news. You get that all on one page. It's like the first thing you open up in the morning, and at nighttime it updates, stuff like that. I think that's a really cool feature. It's one reason why I asked them for this stuff. I want to see how that all works together. I think that's probably where, for me, AI needs to go, and I'm glad to see it going there. It's this idea of just summarizing information for you, and I think they're doing a really actually solid job of it. Needs to get better, but if you thought about getting these things, I do recommend them. So there you go. All righty. I think that about does it. Do you have a thing of the week you want to talk about?
No, I don't. I'm busy writing reviews, so I've literally done nothing but work.
Fair enough. I've been busy with trying to configure my watch to find the best watch face. Anyways, we'll wrap it up. If you guys have Q&As, we'll start to do those now with the audience. But otherwise, we're going to cut off the podcast now. But we'll be back next Thursday for another live podcast. You can go to our YouTube channel, Windows Central, to watch the podcast live or rewatch previous episodes. As always, you can follow me on Twitter and Blue Skies and Threads. It's usually Daniel_Rubino or at Daniel Rubino, all one word on the other two. But go ask me questions there if you want. Give me a follow, or simply with Zac as ZACBOWDEN. Same thing on Blue Sky Social and all that kind of stuff. So thanks for tuning in, everyone. We'll be back next week. Take care.
Oh, wait.
Hour and 28 minutes. Almost should have.
Oh, I got hour 28 on the dot. Yes, if there was anyone in the chat who has any questions, we'll hang around and do Q&A. If there are no questions, we will leave. I'm in there as soon as you can. Yeah, you're right. It does feel like Friday.
Time to go crack a beer.
Yeah.
Actually, it's good we did it now because I have someone coming over to drill a hole in my kitchen tomorrow. So.
Hey.
The dogs don't do well when we have guests over.
Microsoft 365 on Twitter just posted a tweet. It says, "Don't worry, Duo, we're collecting evidence." And it's a screenshot of a PowerPoint presentation titled, "What happened to Duo?"
What?
But it's not Surface Duo, it's something else. But I just think that's really hilarious that they've done that. That's actually because they're just so unaware. They're just incredible.
Yeah, it's because it's a social team, right? Yeah. It's a. Was it Microsoft 365?
Yeah. Do you think 25H2 will have 2 GA dates again like last year? I don't think so, only because, as far as we know, the Snapdragon X2 is supposed to be sort of begin shipping in October, and 25H2, because that's when the new versions of Windows always ship. It's usually September, October. So I don't see why they'd need to do 2 GA dates this year. The only reason we did it last year is because Snapdragon X was shipping in June, and so 24H2 needed to be out the door because Snapdragon X wouldn't run on 23H2. And as far as I'm aware, at least currently so far, the Snapdragon X2 doesn't run on 24H2. It does need 25H2. And so, yeah, I don't see why it'd need to ship any earlier than the X2 availability. It's supposed to be September, October. I don't know if you've already talked about it yet, but thoughts on the new server bin cider build 26360 that finally came out after 2 months of absence. I don't really follow server development, believe it or not. I know you can sometimes look at those builds to sort of get an idea what the next end user build will look like, but no, I've not really been following server ever, to be honest. Is there any information about DirectX 13, and will there be a Windows Unshipped Chapter 3? Regarding Windows Unshipped, yes, I do intend to return to that series this year with some interesting ideas. I think we're going to take a look at Fluent Design, the actual entire Fluent Design vision that Microsoft had that never shipped. We're also going to take a look at probably some Windows Core stuff, maybe Andromeda's Continuum or Polaris or stuff like that. I'm still trying to figure out what exactly we're going to take a look at. I mean, Andromeda's Polaris are basically the same, so maybe that would be one article. But yeah, we're going to take a look at some interesting stuff like that. We might take a look at some more unshipped Windows 10 features as well, desktop stuff, including things like the rounded file interface that Microsoft did build but didn't ship for some reason, and other stuff that they've looked at. So yeah, definitely on the cards this year. Regarding DirectX 13, yeah, no idea. I don't think that's even been rumored.
I haven't heard anything.
Missed the first 15 minutes. Any news about a new Surface clamshell small device? Yeah, no, nothing outside of what we've talked about in the past in regards to 12 to 13 inch. Sorry, 11 to 12 inch, maybe 12 to 13. Surface laptop, which I guess is a clamshell laptop. But no, if you're thinking of a flip phone or something, no phones. Phones are dead in regards to Surface. What do you think about the new Patch Tuesday feature updates to Windows 11 that came out a few days ago? Yeah, they're nice. I mean, basically, Patch Tuesday updates these days are bug fixes and a trickle of features from Insider. So, there's rarely, if ever, anything new in a Patch Tuesday that we don't already know about. But it's nice to see. This is, I think they call it continuous innovation, continuous updates. Can't remember what they call it. But this is the new way of building Windows. There's a moment. Feature drops don't exist anymore, really. We don't get big bang new feature drops every few months. We just get a trickle of features every month. Every month, something new is rolling out in a Patch Tuesday update, because if the feature's ready, there's no point holding it, right? That's how Microsoft views it now, so they line it up for the next Patch Tuesday. And so I like that that's how they're doing it these days. It does make it trickier to track which features are shipping where, especially for the 24H2 reviews, of the big, major release reviews. It's like, do I review this feature in this here, or do I wait for it to drop in a Patch Tuesday? Who knows? But yeah. All right, and I think that's probably it for questions. So yeah, thank you for tuning in, everybody. We'll be back next week. Follow us on Twitter. We'll keep you updated when we go live. But until then, we will see you next time. Bye-bye.